All right, we started the foundation of 10.1, which is three-dimensional coordinate system. We talked about how to plot a point yesterday, and then we went briefly through all the information that you need to know for distance and midpoint, but that's kind of where we're going to pick up. Remember that when you're plotting your points, so on your test, what I did was put almost like what we did for the first example. You're going to get a graph, and then you're going to match a point to the graph instead of having to actually physically graph it. So if you can identify a coordinate point from a graph, you should be fine. Remember to pay attention to where the x, y, and z are, right? So if x is in front, we moved forward. If it was positive, if it's the y on the right, we moved right, and then up if it was the z. Okay, so I'll try to be consistent with the examples that we did and keep it that way. But just be prepared for something like that, which is like the first couple questions in the homework. Or the first question. This is the distance and the midpoint formula. So because we have 3 coordinates in each point now, we extend our distance formula. If we have a coordinate point that is x, y, z, and then a second one that is x, y, z, we find the difference of each coordinate x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared plus z2 minus z1 squared, all underneath the square root. This is, again, going to either be a single number, or it will be a square root, or it will be a simplified, if it can be simplified square root. Okay, so if I had something like the square root of 20, obviously I have to simplify it. Then you get the midpoint, and the midpoint is the same as the midpoint formula except we add on the z's. So I add the 2x's divide by 2, add the 2y's divide by 2, add the 2z's divide by 2, and you'll keep these in fraction form. So if it's a fraction, if it's a number that's not divisible by 2, you will literally leave it as whatever over 2. Okay, obviously if it's divisible by 2, you will simplify it. And all of these questions are going to be typed in answers on Canvas for the folks from home, no spaces, that kind of stuff, same as we're used to. All right, so example 3 says find the distance and the midpoint of the segment between 0, 1, 3 and 1, 4, negative 2. So here's my x1, my y1, my z1. Here's my x2, my y2, and my z2. For the distance, I get the square root of 1 minus 0 squared plus 4 minus 1 squared plus negative 2 minus 3 squared. Square root of 1 squared plus 3 squared plus negative 5 squared. 1 plus 9 plus 25, square root of 35, which is just 5 and 7. Can't get broken down any further, so it stays like that. Questions on distance? Should be an easy question. Just be careful with your signs. People tend to mess it up with the signs. Then comes midpoint. So the midpoint, we're going to add the 2 x's, 0 plus 1 over 2. We're going to add the 2 y's, 1 plus 4 over 2. We're going to add the 2 z's, 3 plus negative 2 over 2. And I'd get 1/2, I'd get 5 halves, and I'd get 1/2. And you'll leave it just like that. Again, if you're typing this into Canvas, if you're taking this online and you're typing this into Canvas, then you're going to open the parentheses 1/2, comma with no space, 5/2, comma with no space, 1/2, and close the parentheses. I actually think it says no parentheses. So you can also just do the 1/2, the 5 halves, and the 1/2. Sure? Easy stuff, right? Yes, we're good? Okay, then came the equation of a sphere. So a sphere is our three-dimensional circle. The equation of the circle was x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. This now brings in the z. So to get to the standard form of the circle, we would use the distance formula from the radius to the center, which looks like this, okay? That's not the standard form. The standard form then squares both sides of the equation. So the standard form looks like this. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared plus z minus j squared equals r squared. Where h, k, j is your center, you change the signs on those just like we're used to with circles. And then the r squared's on the other side, so if it asks for the r, we would square root it. So example 4 says find the standard equation of the sphere with a center of 2, -4, -5, and a radius of 3. So something like this, we are just plugging in x minus h squared plus y minus k squared plus z minus j squared equals r squared. Here's my x, there's my h, my k, my j, and then obviously this is r. So I would get x minus 2 squared plus y minus a negative 4 becomes plus 4 squared plus z minus a negative 5 becomes plus 5 squared equals, and the radius squared would be 9. And then you leave it just like that. There is a question on the homework that instead of giving you the radius, gives you the diameter. What would you have to do there? Divide by 2, then square it. Okay, so don't let that throw you off. That's still super easy. You just got to take that number and divide it by 2. Questions on that one? So let's say instead of giving the radius, you were given a point and the center. You would plug it in just like you do, like we used to do. A point in the center, the point is going to be your x, y, z, and then the center would be your h, k, j. You'd plug it in, you'd solve for r, and then just plug back in the center and the radius. Last thing is the last time, anyways, the seniors, I think the juniors are going to see, and sophomores will get back to complete the square. But this says find the center and the radius of the sphere given x squared plus y squared plus z squared plus 4x minus 2y plus 8z plus 10 equals 0. So we have to get this into standard form, which means we're going to complete the square for the x, the y, and the z. Okay? If there was if there was an x squared and not an x, I wouldn't have to complete the square for x. But for every one that you have both squareds and not squareds, we've got to complete the square. So we start by grouping. X squared plus 4x, leave our space, plus y squared minus 2y, leave our space, plus z squared plus 8z, leave your space, equals, and I'm going to bump the 10 to the other side, negative 10. So we're starting out by just regrouping our x's, y's, and z's. Then I want to complete the square for each one. So for the x, I take the 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Square it, it's 4. I add it here, and I add it here. Then I go to the y. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. So I add the 1 here. I add the 1 on the other side. And the last one, z, take the 8, divide it by 2. It's 4. 4 squared is 16. I add the 16 here and here. Everybody's good so far, right? We have now completed the square 800 times this year. Okay, so now we're going to square root the first term, square root the last term, take the sign from the middle, put it in the parentheses, and square it for the x. Square root the first term, square root the last term, take the sign from the middle, put it in the parentheses, square it for the y. And square root the first term, square root the last term, take the sign from the middle, put it in parentheses, and square it for the z. And then negative 10 plus 4 is negative 6, plus 1 is negative 5, plus 16 is 11. What's my center? Good. And what's the radius? Square root 11. So half the time people screw up and forget to square root the 11. Don't do that, okay? Just don't forget. Don't forget to add the numbers to the other side. That's the mistake people make. And don't forget to square root what's there, because that is an r squared. That's it, folks. You're done with the content that is on your test for next Wednesday. Seniors, you are done with content. Congratulations. Questions? All right, let's get some homework done. Then you don't have to worry about it tonight. You can focus on your AP Chem cram.